What is up, everybody? Happy Monday, as always. Waf, great to see you, King.
Dude, happy Monday. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out in MVHQ. Hope you had a great weekend. Get ready to talk some BTC and Ordinals. Let's go.
Let's do it. Waf, happy Father's Day to you, sir. Hope you got some cool quality time in with the fam, and hopefully no one gave you any Nat Cats as a Father's Day gift.
Yeah, no nat cats, just some dad joke buttons and some t-shirts and stuff like that. But overall, great weekend. Market not doing so hot, but the one thing that is doing hot is $1 billion cat. I think we should start there, shouldn't we?
Dude, of course, I love to talk billion-dollar cat. I really am just stoked that the thesis played out, and right before Billion Dollar Cat, before I saw it, I was actually rereading Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that book or not, Waf. Have you read it by chance?
I am not familiar. School me on this.
Dude, we got to get you a copy ASAP. Honestly, anyone in MVHQ, if you've not read Trading in the Zone, would really recommend it. It's just like a really good book for any trader. I've just heard it highly recommended. I read it a few years ago when I began my trading journey, but reread it again recently. And it really just talks about how you have to take full accountability for your trades, and you can't, you know, let the market feel like it's going against you or treat it other than an objective source of information. And this is all just a background to say I was in a place where I just wanted to trade everything, and every rune that was coming out and every project that was coming out. Anytime I'd see someone in MVHQ being like, this could be good or that could be good, I'd just be like, I need to go in and rush and mint. It just gets exhausting, right? It's like every project, you can't have eyes on it because it gets to be too much. So I really, after reading Trading in the Zone, and again, just really recommend it. There's like a lot more to it than that. That was just sort of a preamble. But I said to myself, hey, I'm looking for the conditions of a meme coin to get into, because obviously there's going to be another meme coin that 100x's or 1000x's, and you can't just play every single meme coin. So what are the factors that I'm looking for? I'm looking for a solid meme. I am looking for adoption by the community, and I'm looking for something that has that upward pressure. So with Billion Dollar Cat, it was really easy. The biggest thing I saw was the meme potential. And I made a video of it. It's on my Twitter. Essentially, they made this meme generator where you can put in any image and it'll spit out the image with the Billion Dollar Cat mask on. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, damn, this has meme potential. It has adoptability where it can be applied in a variety of different cases, and a ton of people from the community can make memes. That was number one. Number two, crazy amounts of volume on that coin. Even at a sub $5 million market cap, it was doing Bitcoins and Bitcoins of volume every day. And then three is just the multiple, right? It was like, damn, this thing's at sub 10 million or whatever. There's lots of upside to that spot on runes for a top market cap. And sure enough, it played out. It was like a 10x from entry so far. So I've just been DCAing out, scaling out of the trade, but it hit every one of my boxes. And I'm just glad, again, Trading in the Zone gave me the wherewithal to just step back and say, hey, I'm not going to chase every single meme coin. I'm just going to wait for one that really checks all my boxes. And it checked them all, took a little feeler on it. And sure enough, here we are.
Congrats, Ross. I want to say I minted this, so it is like a 360x for me right now. I mean, $1 billion cat has just gone to the moon, and the market cap is still fairly low, I want to say, at 63 million. But now you start getting into that decision zone. Do you think this thing could take it to the next level? Could it reach a Bank of Nakamoto dollar and 5x from here? Like that now it starts getting a little riskier, but that move from those initial couple of $1 million to here, I felt like that was an easy call, and that was a great call by you. Um, in hindsight, it looks even easier, but hindsight is 2020. It did check all the boxes. I mean, it got the great memes, it's got the great social media presence. It replies to people in the community on their posts. So I just think its engagement is off the charts. And it deserves to be where it is right now. It's number one in volume today. I mean, more volume than even Dog Go to the Moon. It's at 1.5 million over the last 24 hours, and Dog is at about a million. And it's like number six overall in terms of Rune's market cap. So I think Billion Dollar Cat is one to really keep an eye out on any pullbacks. It could be an opportunity if you're still bullish, which I am, to see it go up to the next levels. I see no reason why it cannot catch Bank of Nakamoto dollar.
Yeah, well said, Waf, and congrats to you, dude, on the mint. That's absolutely astounding. I mean, 300x is absolutely crazy, and it's more than that. It's like 1x for every day in the week. So we love to see that, for every day in the year, excuse me. But yeah, man, that's super hype. To your point, do I think it has upside? I think it does. This is an interesting one because there's been coins like this before where they list out like a price target of 100x guaranteed or double up or gonna go to a billion. So coins like this have existed. I really do think what makes the cat so prevalent is that mask. Like it's just the Bitcoin logo sideways. I don't think without that mechanic, this coin would have done nearly as well. I'm not fully convinced it's going to go to $1 billion just because Doggo to the Moon hasn't gone to $1 billion yet. So for $1 billion cat to really do it, it would take a lot. I do think that there is a lot of upward pressure on it, and we continue to see the holder count increase. I still see their social media posts everywhere, so there's a lot of adoption. Um, but I think the ceiling that I'm seeing is the amount of people in the ordinals and rune space. So I'd have to imagine that at a certain point, people will continue to FOMO in, and there's just not enough people who know about runes or ordinals to get it up to a billion, right? Because like there's already a few thousand people invested in it. Maybe more and more people will continue to buy, but you would continually need people to buy and buy and buy and buy and enter in the space to get it up to a billion. And I just don't know if there's that many people trading runes. But with that being said, I think this is a no-brainer buy on a pullback. And that's kind of where I'm putting it in how I'm managing the position. I've pretty much just been scaling out and selling it in 50% chunks. So as it doubles in market cap, I'll sell 50%. If it brings me back to my initial position, I'll just continue to sell, chunks and chunks and chunks. But if it goes, let's say, from 50 back to 30 million, I would be very excited to buy more of it. And for me, it just is clearly very bullish. It's like the top rune right now, in my opinion, just based on it continuing to grow while everything else is shrinking. And any pullback of $1 billion cat, I will continue to add to the position. And I think that's just the way to play it with runes and ordinals in general, is just find the true strength, wait for a good buy op, and then buy it. But I'm definitely not going to rush into it saying, hey, it could go to 100 million, so I'm going to dump my whole bankroll into it. That's definitely not the proper way to trade this. I don't.
Completely agree. I mean, if you recall, Cats in the Sats was the sort of like the first cat meme that did well. Maybe not the first, but one that kind of reached a different level that wasn't reached by any other rune until Billion Dollar Cat, and then took a back seat after Billy shot out and kind of took over. But you look at today, even Cats in the Sats is up 45%. So you could like also play some of these beta plays off a Billion Dollar Cat as well. So I think Cat in the Sats is a nice one that seems if it could correlate on the days that Billion Dollar Cat moves, it could be a good secondary play. But the real proof in the pudding will be on the pullbacks. Like how bad will these pullbacks be when it's time to pull back? And just going to throw this one out there since it's going on right now. There's another mint going on right now. Stupid silly cat with socials, and it's memeing too. It's at like 30% minted out. So I threw some mints at it out there. I just want to throw that out there if anybody feels like degenning. Another cat meme. So I think like these memes are still doing pretty well. But we should talk about the overall market first, I think. But I think these runes are still, we're still kind of in the holding pattern, but I think we've been seeing some movement here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. We're definitely in a holding pattern, specifically with ordinals. I'm just not really seeing any movement on floors other than down for Nat Cats. Hate to see it, but it is what it is. I thought a really good takeaway as well from this Trading in the Zone book which I'm sure plug 10 times by the time this episode is over. It just talks about how the market does not give you any information other than objective information. And if you're, processing any information the market is telling you in a negative way, it probably means that you're overinvested or you're not clearly thinking as a trader, right? It's our job to just navigate objective information and find opportunity in it. So when I see ordinals going down, I'm like, oh, that's not good. It's like, well, it's only not good because I have NatCat bags. So I should really just evaluate what's going on with the ordinal space. Again, another preamble just to say I am waiting for the proper entry to get back into ordinals and to really feel good about some of these collections. I think right now, even with some consistent volume on collections like puppets, quantum cats, and node monkeys, it just looks like we're marching in a flat line. So I'm not really seeing the onus to buy anything yet. I think we might dip a little bit lower, especially with these pullbacks that we're seeing in crypto. But I'm always just keeping an eye on the volume and seeing how thin those floors get. And I'm sure there's going to be a point where it looks pretty juicy and that market's objectively saying, hey, it's time to go back up. But I don't think we're seeing that quite yet.
Yeah, I think like orders might not come back until sort of like the end of a full Bitcoin cycle, where right now you're seeing Bitcoin even taking a pullback from last week, and altcoins are really have been doing nothing. And then in turn, like you're starting to see a little bit of a capitulation on meme coins and shit coins just in the general broader market. And then if you just look at the Bitcoin ecosystem, it's kind of like a similar story where runes have taken a beat down over the past week too. And I mean, we're seeing some little pop up activity today, but for the most part, the runes kind of act like the altcoins on Bitcoin, and then you got the newly minted runes like that we're playing and degenning into are sort of like our next level shit coins, I want to say, right? And it's sort of like the same ecosystem from like a broader crypto market down to the Bitcoin ecosystem market. And I just think right now ordinals is like not really something to be considered, just for the due to the lack of liquidity. Even these runes that are getting minted out and popping off like within a day or two, they're probably sold off and down. But with that being said, I think there is opportunity out there. As long as you remain kind of liquid, right? Because liquidity is still king. And if you don't have any liquidity, you can't take advantage of some of these prices on certain things. Because sometimes the market tends to throw out the baby with the bathwater, I want to say. So like, if you're very liquid, you could hold some comfy bags, right? And then you could kind of pick and choose your spots, I think, a little bit better. If you're ready all in, the thing is you can't capitalize on these prices. What's going to wind up happening is you're going to wind up capitulating at these lower prices if you're already all in. So I want to just kind of put that out there again. I think liquidity is definitely king. It makes holding everything easier, even when things are going down. It feels like down only, because right now it does feel like down only in ordinals, but we know they'll come back. I mean, we've seen even like in the prior cycle, Bitcoin frogs went to like 0.15 all the way back down to 0.03, even 0.02, and then all the way up to like almost half a Bitcoin. So I just think that's still going to play out. I just think it's a question of patience and playing the market, smartly.
Yeah, well said, Waf. I mean, I think that really is just a good thing to keep in mind during periods like this. And just as traders, I mean, we're always trying to learn. And I think this space is a little bit different than others, because it's really easy to get FOMO into a new project. And considering how volatile the space is, when ordinals were pumping, it just seemed like the sky was the limit. We thought every ordinal project was going to reach a Bitcoin. We got some crazy, crazy run ups and then pretty sharp declines that haven't returned back to those levels, primarily in collections like puppets and node monkeys. So it's definitely understandable for people who bought the tops of collections and now they're down. You're like, well, what do I do? Do I just deploy all my capital here? And it's tough. And like I'm totally there, right? Like I bought a lot of Nat Cats in the 0.07 to zero point 0.1 range. It was already a winning trade, but I was like, these things are going to the moon. I'm going to get more. And then it pulls back steeply. So I think to that point, you just have to evaluate how much am I really willing to walk away with? How much do I want to take a loss on? But the solution isn't always just throw more liquidity at it, because once you get to a point where you're just fully out of cash, you're going to be mentally, just being played around with by the market, because your whole sense of worth is going to be, are my ordinals up or down today? And it can be brutal. So it definitely makes sense to just keep some liquidity on the side. And, to your point, even with these pullbacks, we've still seen some memes that have come out and minted out. They don't always do great for a sustained period of time, but there's always going to be opportunities, like we're seeing right now. There's still opportunities for runes and ordinals.
Yeah, even like with runes, and I agree with everything you said right there. Sometimes the volume is actually very deceptive. Like volume is like one of those indicators I always like to use when looking at a certain rune or a coin or just anything in general. But when it comes to runes, like that volume could be there and then it sort of disappears. And it's almost like you need to position yourself before the volume hits, and then as the volume comes in, get out, because like it's still a relatively illiquid market, right? And if you kind of chase with along with the liquidity volume, you're gonna wind up paying like a higher price, and then when the liquidity dries out and the volume dries out, you're not gonna be able to move your bags. Like if you're holding a big bag and you're up a lot, like try selling and see how long it takes to sell. It's very illiquid, so you got to kind of plan your buys and plan your sells, and not necessarily just throw a bunch of BTC at it, because it might not necessarily be that easy to sell even if you're still up.
Yeah, well said, Waf. And I mean, it's a really good call too. I do think on runes, a lot of the times the volume can be misleading. Some of the volume is represented by the price of minting it out. So as a rune collection is getting close to mint, there's obviously going to be a lot of volume. There's always going to be a lot initially traded. So I think the key is like having those stars aligned, right? It's not just volume alone. It's a mix of volume. You want to see sustained volume, and then pairing increase of ownership with it. So something I noticed with Billion Dollar Cat is I continue to look at the owners and just saw that there was more and more holders. You definitely don't want to see a lot of volume, but holder count going down, because then that's just showing that there's some whale accumulating all of it. And like maybe that's a great play long term for them, but most of the time, if it's just one person holding all of the cards, all it's going to do is really dilute the market. At one point, they're going to have to sell for a loss and just liquidate their bags.
Yeah, yeah. Plus, I'm sure a lot of people are up significant profits, so there's a lot of take profit going on there on Billion Dollar Cat, I want to say. So like, even like this past week, I don't know how active you've been in the market, but I've been kind of doing the lower risk plays, like minting some things that I found semi interesting, looking for good socials, and just taking those risks. Sats have been low, so it's been kind of like a low risk thing. I think over the past week, I've probably minted 5 different runes, I want to say. The I think the notable one is uh, for the children, the Ghostface Killer rune. It's not doing that great, like maybe 1.3 million market cap, but I do think it has potential to do a few X's. Even TL called it out in ninjas, so that's one I'm kind of keeping my eye on. Also, rare wizard orb. I don't know if you got into that mint. That one seems to be doing pretty well. I think it's like rune number 16. Today we had a couple degen mints. I want to say they had send feet picks this morning. I don't know if you saw that one, but that one's doing pretty well right now. I think that's a good flip. I just minted stupid silly cat, which was like literally right before the show. And then another one I was looking at was downward dog cat. So this some low risk degen mints still going on. Some with more, I guess, potential than others. But I think it's just kind of like a good low risk way to play the market is look for some mints, look for some socials. These sats being so low, you could do like a full mint out of like 24 times, 25 times for like $50 or whatever, and it might 3-4x after the mint out, so it's not a bad play. There's still things like that out there that I'm still looking at.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Waf. I did get in Wizard Orb today. It seemed like I had some pretty good volume on that, so I hopped in. But yeah, 100%. With sats this low, it's really not a huge risk, right? I know you brought this up last week, but minting is definitely nice, especially while things are low. I think it really just does depend on what your tolerance is and just knowing your bankroll. Like I saw For the Children coming out. I wasn't really stoked with how much of the population you could get with each mint. I personally just kind of faded that one because it didn't really check the boxes for me. But I think with a lot of these mints, if it has even just like a memeable rune name, and it looks like it's going to mint out, you might as well, because the downside risk is what, like a couple bucks if you're wrong. So if it's something that you think, wow, this is going to be a home run, maybe go ham. But we saw with Billion Dollar Cat, like you said, a 300x. So you don't have to mint a whole lot of it for it to be a huge win. So I think you just gotta, pace yourself there. We've definitely seen in degen season, you can still lose money if you mint too much of something, but it really is a low risk trade, all things considered.
Agreed. I mean, I was listening to a Spaces and it had TL on it. It had Ghostface Killer, and it made me kind of bullish on it. So that's why I figured at this low cost, it's something I could have no problem sitting on and see how it plays out. To had been making some good calls on runes. Like he called out Banka Nakamoto, I think weeks ago, and he also called Roonies. I think I forgot the full name of that rune, but it was something Roonies. He called that one too. He called this one. I'm like, I'm gonna kind of just roll with him on it, listen to the Spaces, kind of liked it. So I said, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think 100%, especially for mints. I mean, it's a lot less of a consideration when you're getting off the ground floor, right? It's really just a matter of, is this rune relevant for more than a day? As long as it is, you're going to profit off of it. Versus if you're buying something like Billion Dollar Cat at 50 million, there's a chance that you can, really get wrecked pretty quickly there. So I think minting is a really good call right now if you're not sure what to do. I think you could still buy the dips on some things, but you really want to just make sure it comes from conviction. I think that's the name of the game in the runes and ordinal space right now, is just finding things that you actually believe in. And I mean, I think we're at a far enough stage in crypto where we really know that not all projects are going to make it. Most of them aren't. So I think identifying where you really have faith in the founder or the message or the meme, that's really what's going to differentiate you in these choppy times.
Yeah, also that something somewhat notable was Cook the mempool is mint is over, right? It was like a block time based mint, so that mint is over. There was speculation that after that mint out was complete, that there was going to be an RSIC announcement. Don't think it happened yet, but I do think the Rune Dev did post on X. So you could expect maybe some speculation on something happening soon for either Cook the Mempool or RSIC as well. Also, Cook the Mempool, rune number 37.
Well, I'm not sure if it's me or you, but you might be getting rugged a little bit. You said after rune 37, you cut out.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Ah, there you go. Yep.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so I think just Cook the Mempool again. I was just saying, it minted out this week. It was like a block based time mint. So I think the total supply was it only mints about 2% of its total supply, and it's associated with RSIC. And there was some speculation that after Cook the Mempool minted out, that RSIC would make an announcement, and so RSIC moved a little bit as a result of that. So it's something just to keep an eye out on for is potential RSIC news related to something with Cook the Mempool.
Yeah, good shout there, Waf. I did mint a little bit of Cook the Mempool just because sats were low, like you said, and I do know it has the tie-in to RSIC as well as being a pretty low rune number. So we're holding on there. Not really sure what's going on with RSIC. I still believe that they got a plan. You just again have to look at the crumbs that they left, which is just a total domination of the pre-rune era. So I really think it makes sense that they're building something in the background. So that's just something that I've accumulated. It's one of the few names that I actually feel pretty good about. If the price continues to drop, I definitely feel comfortable buying the RSIC dip. Feel less comfortable about Cook the Mempool because I'm not sure if that was just something that they had as a backup. But I definitely think RSIC is getting into a pretty good buy zone here as it gets closer to 100 million market cap.
Yeah, actually, there's probably a good 10 runes that I'm comfortable buying at the moment. I just think everything is so low. And when the general market is back up, like these things are just going to fly. The market caps are just like literally minuscule, like in comparison to other things. So I'm kind of excited for these low prices. I just think there's so many opportunities now. I really do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Af. 100%, man. I mean, honestly, I'm still looking at buying that Quantum Cat. I know it's a shift over from runes back into ordinals, but I noticed the floors are getting a little bit dippy there. And I definitely see that they're starting to get bricked a bit in terms of just having 10 or so runes or sorry, ordinals all around the same price point. So usually when I see, 0.26, 0.26, 0.261, just stuff that's barely higher than the cap before it, I'm pretty confident that we're going to go a little bit lower before higher. So I definitely think in the low 0.2s, I'm trying to get a quantum cat for a little quick swing there. I definitely think quantum cats are great because it's a low collection with a lot of diamond handers in there. So I definitely think there's good potential for a 0.05 to 0.1 swing. It's just a matter of waiting for the timing on that. So I'm excited about that from an ordinals perspective, but runes as well, man. Like you said, there's some great collections that we've talked about it lots of times. Just zooming out a few years from now, and what's going to be Bitcoin's future. I'm sure some of these runes are going to do damage from here. 10 to 100x.
Yeah, I think the asymmetry of like the bet here on runes is quite large. But going back to ordinals, since you mentioned ordinals, I've been kind of like taking a look at prices, and we talked about runestone when I was able to get it at like 0.009. Like we're kind of approaching that again now soon. It's like 0.012. I think that's gonna be approaching a buy zone for me, runestones. And then also R6 at 0.018. I think it dipped to like 0.013 or maybe even 0.014 at one point, and I just didn't catch it. So it's kind of bounced back up a little bit. But I've just been kind of looking at the lower cost ordinals. Like I'm not really ready to buy like a quantum cat because I don't know if quantum cats could go down closer to mint price potentially. Like, I mean, it's not crazy to think that it could go down to maybe a point, or maybe not mint price, but like at least day one price, like under 0.2. And so I've just been kind of looking at rootstone mostly.
Yeah, that's a great play, WAF, honestly. I know we talked about it last week, but the fact that there's still two more airdrops associated with Runestone, already had Dog go to the moon, but that's at an almost 700 to 800 million market cap. Market's not in the best position, so runes are going to go higher at some point. That's for sure going to cross a billion market cap. And then even if the next one gets a fraction of that, right? Let's say 10 or 50 million, just holding one, you should be able to come in with at least a couple $100. So I think sub zero point zero 0.01 for a very conservative estimate on what the second airdrop could be, you're probably talking about breaking even, if not, like the runestone's not going to go straight to zero. So it really seems like it's a smart play to load up on these runestones the lower they go. I'm right there with you, Af. I think sub zero point 0.1, I'm definitely going to be 0.01, I'll be a buyer.
Yeah. Also, I think because there's only 2.3% listed, so you're only talking about 2,500 listed out of the entire collection. That price could go up quick. So even if you're not playing it from the runes perspective, you're just playing to flip the ordinal. This could run to 0.018, and you could make 50% on that, like no problem, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we saw last time it already popped back up when Dog was getting really popular. I think it popped up to like 0.016. So the potential to make a 60% gain in a couple of sweeps is great.
Yeah, if you think about it, it's kind of like poker. Like, Runestone has so many outs, right? Like, it's got the dog pump, it's got the potential, second rune drop. There's so many things working for it. So I think there's a lot of bullish factors there. It's got like a lot of outs.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. I never even thought about the different outs, but that's a great way to look at it.
Anything else you got your eye on? I noticed Node Monkey's down to point two.
Yeah, with Node Monkeys down to point two, I was definitely keeping an eye on it. I'm not sure if I'm going to pull the trigger here. I think it could go a little bit lower. Crypto as a whole, I just think is in a difficult position. Um, I know they talked about a little bit about Jake and Bake today, just where the state of the market is, and I'm usually pretty vocal when I think the tides are turning a little bit. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little slippy here. My thought is just that if you zoom out a little bit, even like 3 to 6 months, crypto just ran up so violently, and it's the same sentiment behind why it might be harder for billion dollar cat to go to like 100 mil. You just continue to need inflows of cash for people who entered late in the game to be profitable. So for all of the people who entered within the last couple of months who are buying Solana above $200 or buying these meme coins at the top, it's going to just keep sliding down to a point where they're going to be in pain and they have to sell off. I still think with any asset, what comes up comes down, and there's really some gravitational pull towards VWAP or just average price over a large enough sample. So it goes in both directions, right? If stuff gets beaten down enough, eventually it comes back up. But if it just runs too hot too fast, I think a lot of the times it just reaches a froth zone and then we pull back. And we've seen this in most of the cycles in crypto. I think people don't want to talk about it a lot, obviously, because you don't want your bags to get wrecked. But it is what it is, right? Going back to six mention at this point, trading in the zone, you just have to take it objectively. So objectively, we're seeing that the leading indicators of crypto, in my mind, just being the coins themselves, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, they're all pulling back a little bit. We do have Blast TGE in a week, so I think that could be the tide that raises all boats. But unless that liquidity sticks and people start flooding back in the market, to your point, Laf, we might just have to wait until there's that revamp of the Bitcoin cycle with some catalyst before we see these bags pump back to their former glory. So it is tempting to buy a Node Monkey at 0.2 here, just given that they were at 0.8 like 3 weeks or 3 months ago. But could we see them go even lower? Sure. They were at 0.15 4 months ago. So who's to say they can't go back there?
And hey, we had the ZK airdrop today, and that didn't really change much. I think the Blast one should be a little bit more significant, just because I think it kind of relates more to the people that are in this space. So like that'll be definitely interesting to watch. I just think the market pullback is healthy. A couple of weeks back, I kind of went over some of the Bitcoin pricing since February, and we've been steadily over 60. I don't think there's anything wrong about where we are right now in the market. And I don't think there's anything wrong with just sitting on your hands and not making a move. Like I don't think you have to force a move, force a buy, force a sell. I think if you're in a comfy position where you are, it's okay just to sit back and wait. Go touch grass for the summer and wait till the market's hot again if you really want to. I mean, I see no reason to force anything at the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree, Waf. And I mean, I think just dollar cost averaging into stuff is probably the best way for stuff you're not sure. You're obviously going to need a big bankroll to dollar cost average into something like Node Monkeys. I mean, obviously, there's people who have it. So if you got it, all power to you. My big play for dollar cost averaging is still Wizard. I know I brought it up beforehand. I was talking about it in chat. I'm like, damn, sub $5. I'm a big buyer of it. I think at $5 a Wizard, it's about $110 million market cap for Magic Internet money, which seems very low. I do anticipate that reaches a billion at some point. That's a pretty long-term thesis. I think it could take months to years for that to play out, but it's just one of the few things that I have no qualms holding. Same with Bitcoin itself. I really don't have any issue holding Bitcoin if the price goes lower. So if you're not really sure which way the price is going to go, it's just like slowly buy a little bit as it goes down, right? Bitcoin could easily go to 70 from here. It could easily go to 60. I don't really know. But if it goes lower, I'll just buy more, and I'll buy more in an amount that's, meditated. It's not going to be my whole bankroll at 60 because that's the bottom. It'll be here's a few hundred, as it drops. Here's a few hundred more. Here's a few thousand more. Like you're just slowly scaling into it. So for me, that's just been Wizard. I bought some once it broke 5. It went to low 4s today. I bought a little bit more. And as I buy at this price point, I'm not tempted to just keep buying it. I'm not like, let me just keep buying at $4 over and over. Now it's like, great, I bought at 4. If it goes to 350, I'll buy a little bit more. If it goes to 3, I'll continue to buy more. I think that's the only way you can treat it with these things. But it really does, come down to, do you have the conviction to do?
Yeah, I agree with you. You can't just shoot out your whole clip and have no ammo left, right? I think one rune that's really gotten beat down is Pups World Peace. Like I don't know if you noticed it, but it's down to like an 84 million market cap. I mean, if you really think about it, $1 billion cat is like not that far away from flipping Pups World Peace, and I think that's a little bit crazy considering all the history in of pups and all the things they've done. I mean, I love $1 billion cat, but why is $1 billion cat only $20 million less of a market cap than Pups World Peace? Like that one doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, you know, it's tough. I really was a firm believer in the puppet ecosystem. I mean, I talked about a month ago, I sold my final puppet, which was a bittersweet moment, but I just don't know if I like see the vision as much anymore. I think a lot of it is just reading where the community's strengths lie. I think puppets were really edgy and in a non-sarcastic way at all. Like I think they were edgy in a fun way where it was different and they were kind of like, crazy puppets out there posting being like pup life, fuck it, we're going to zero, and they were just like firmly we're going to zero. And it was so fun when people were shouting we're going to zero, we're going to zero, and the floor just kept going up. Like that was awesome, and I think that sort of represented pup super well. Their whole idea was it's satire, it's a play on the space, we're pumping dumb shit anyways, so why not just embrace it? Where I think it went weird for puppets was the price started dumping, and then rather than being like, let's go, we're going to zero, you started seeing comments of like, it's actually a joke. Like, we're not actually going to zero. We're not actually going to zero. And it's like, the same way you explain a joke, it's not funny anymore. After puppets, we're like, oh, guys, no, like, where are the puppets? Where are they? It just, to me at least, seemed like the community was scrambling a little bit. It sort of lost that sense of like edginess and I don't know, whatever it was, the charisma that puppets had. I feel like a lot of that has just left. So I don't know how the really put in words a meme isn't hitting as much as it used to, but that's kind of where I'm at with pups. Like, I think the whole pups world peace narrative just isn't really, hitting as hard as it did when things were ripping. So that could be why they're tanking a little bit.
I never thought of it that way because I'm you always looking at it from more of the price action perspective, but that's an interesting take. I think you're right though to that extent that I don't really see the pups on my timeline anymore as like the way I used to. So yeah, so maybe they are taking a back seat. So you feel like they lost their mojo basically. I get it. And I think you're right probably. But I do think there's some comeback ability just from how badly beaten down they've been. But yeah, that's an interesting take. I also think their runes is kind of linked to their ordinals, so that could be like a blessing and a curse, right? So with their ordinal price going down, it's just kind of like naturally tanking their rune price too, because there's still that association with it. But if the puppets are pumping, then probably the rune will be pumping too. So there's probably some correlation to that, and it's probably getting more negatively affected by ordinals as a rune than pretty much any other rune out there.
Yeah, well said there, Waf. I mean, it's for sure correlated. I definitely think there's a play there that if puppets sweep and they go back up to a point two floor, be ready to hop on Pup's rune. I think that's a pretty easy correlation trade, similar to like GameStop versus GameStop on Solana. If one rips, the other one is imminent. So I really do think that's possible. But yeah, I think we've seen it with collections before. It's not just pups, right? It's not like that's the only community that's lost their feel to it. You can just look at any NFT collection over the past 3 years. At some point they sort of lose their vigor and it's just okay, this community isn't as airtight anymore. Now people want the next shiny thing. So I think that's probably the case for puppets. But I do think they still have a pretty big history in ordinals. So if ordinals continue to catch on, I'm sure puppets will come back. It's not like I'm specifically shitting on puppets. I'm not saying that they're gonna underperform once the bull runs back. It's just right now, I think that the conviction and airtightness of that community is lacking a bit.
All right, so speaking of the next shiny object, let's talk about some upcoming mints. Today there was Natimated Wizards. Are you familiar with that DMT project?
Is that related to the wizard rune that came out today?
I'm not sure if they're related to the rune, but it's a DMT project and it's actually animated, so it's like a wizard who's actually animated. It looks pretty cool actually. Let me drop the Twitter link.
Please.
All right, there you go. Yeah, so this one is minting today. I think phase one is today, and there's a phase two tomorrow and a phase three. Um, so I was looking at that. I was also looking at some other things going on. Ironically enough, it seems like the DMT ecosystem has a few mints coming up. The other one is Nat Doggos on Wednesday. I don't know if you saw that one either. And these are all going to be on MScribe.
Oh, gotcha. I haven't seen them. I'm honestly probably out for now, just because I don't think DMT collections are in the hottest spot. And I think it just goes back to what we talked about. I think there's pretty low risk to mint if you wanted to mint it. For me personally, I'm just can't imagine them surpassing Natcats or Royals. So at this price point for these DMT projects, I would want something that looks dope, or you know a resurgence of DMT projects. So these Nat animated wizards, I'm not super thrilled. The art's not really that amazing in my eyes, and I just don't think they're gonna really do that great if both Natcats and Royals have such a low floor right now. Could always be wrong. This is always just my take on it. So NFA, these Lucids do look a little bit better, but they also do remind me a lot of Inked on Bitcoin. So I think these could do a little bit better. Looks like they got a fun duck, but yeah, we're just seeing basically another Azuki clone. Is how I would call this one.
Dude, I think you hit the nail on the head. This is like the one that I want to say has been a little bit more hyped up, Lucid. And as soon as I saw it, I said the same exact thing. It's inked on BTC vibes all over again. But you know what? That was like a cook if you got the whitelist and sold it like immediately. It was a cook. I remember doing the show with you, and I think I got mine, and I think I immediately sold it for like 0.075 or something like that.
100%, dude. Yeah, I mean, Inked on Bitcoin was definitely a cook. I think it's just like projects keep falling for the same traps, which is they're just making stuff to get money. And the whole idea is, okay, we can get money because we're selling this vision, right? So just going on their Twitter, again, I don't really know a lot about Lucid. So if you have a deeper version of it, let me know. But just looking at what they're presenting here, it just looks like another anime PFP. And with the anime PFP, there's always selling the vision of, oh, well, you're entering a community. There's going to be an anime coming. We're selling IP. We're selling a story. I mean, that's kind of it. So with these collections, we've already seen it come full circle with Azuki. They came out. They're doing okay. Their floor price is holding somewhat stable, not anything crazy. But they have a full-fledged anime that looks better than these previews on Lucid. So my question is, why would anyone buy Lucid, right? It's going to be temporary hype. I'm sure they have a ton of followers. 47.5 thousand followers, tons of engagement on their Twitter. Great. So it just seems like the same old shit that we see with this kind of project. Honestly, it's just another hype narrative. So I'm sure if you can get a whitelist, awesome. I would probably sell it as soon as it comes out. Maybe flip a couple rares if you're able to, but I'm definitely not going to be really paying much attention to that.
Oh yeah, I think these are pure trades. We're talking about trades. Here's another one I think that could be a good trade. I'm gonna drop another link right now.
Let's see it. Yeah, Narcos. So I think this one actually does have a slightly better potential of doing well than other ordinal projects we've seen lately. I think this one is because it's actually from Narcos, if I'm not mistaken. So the TV show Narcos, super popular. I think it was, slightly less successful than Breaking Bad, but very, very successful. A super popular show. I know a lot of people have been hyping up this mint for a lot. I do think this is still probably a case of sell the hype. Um, like I think it's going to do well off mint just because it's a pretty cheap mint price. But ultimately, we don't see a lot of Web 2 projects come into the space and become successful. So they're tapping into a TV show that's been off air for a few years now. I think a lot of people will have nostalgia for the show or looking for something to mint. So I don't have any doubt that it's a quick trade, but I probably would not be holding much longer than your quick flip.
You know what? I didn't realize this one was official and was actually associated with the show. Um, I think I liked it better if it wasn't associated with the show, but that's definitely interesting. But it's very cheap, 0.0009 BTC, so it's essentially a free mint. Yeah, maybe it's a good flip too.
Yeah, I mean, I see 60 here in the chat. He's saying, are we forgetting about all the terrible show related NFTs that never do anything? Doesn't matter, still garbage. NFA. Appreciate the NFA 60. I mean, I agree, man. I'm for sure saying the same thing. I think it's going to be a flip. I think it'll go above 0.0009. Shout out to Dop Daddy. We have an MVHQ mission right here, so you can check if you want a whitelist. At 0.0009, I think you can afford to mint it. It's pretty cheap. I definitely think there's a way you could flip through it, get a little bit more. But yeah, I wouldn't be too excited. Looks like Big Floppa just shared us a message here. Waf, he said my high prior in collabs for MVHQ and sent us a couple projects saying these are cooks if we want to flip through real quick.
Aeons, I clicked on the link and I am following them already. I've seen this art. This art definitely looks really good. I don't know when this mint is supposed to be, but it was definitely on my radar probably weeks back, and then it kind of just fell off. But this art looks really good. I think Big Floppa made a good call on that one right there.
Yeah, Big Floppa, appreciate it, man. Love that. I'm gonna have to throw you a quick bless after we're done here because these are pretty cool. I like the art on Aeons at a glance. Waf, you brought up Parker Day. You brought up this collection last week. I think you said that this is Casey's girlfriend, and it's a collaboration between her and Casey. So that'll definitely do well just based on the relationship to Casey there. I'm perma bearish on photography projects. No shade at our local photographers. Much love for the art and craft. Just don't think photography projects really do too well. And let's see, the third link Floppa just sent us here, Cats Against TradeFi. This one looks pretty fun. Definitely some fun art here. I will note, for whatever reason, animated projects just usually don't do well. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, Waf, but like just through the history of crypto, animated projects almost exclusively flop, at least very soon after a pump, if there is any. So we'll see. But these are all definitely high quality projects shared here, Floppa. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you a lot, Big Floppa. Yeah, I do like Aeons a lot, and then yeah, Hey Park a Day, like we were talking about listening to the Hell Money podcast and Aaron and everything. I think that's just smart. It's a smart play to be on, be ready for that one, because I think people will simp over that one and mint it, and it might go crazy. This Cats versus TradFi, I think the cat memes are hot right now on Bitcoin. It's probably the right time to drop it. I want to say maybe it'll do good on secondary for a minute. You never know. You might get something that comes out and it winds up being like a Frux, right? Where you could make some really nice gains if you sweep early and get out. So like you always gotta kind of keep your your nose to the ground and be ready for when an opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, 100% WAP. I mean, I think a lot of it is just price action. We saw with Frux, there was just hundreds and hundreds being swept throughout as soon as they came out. So I think we're looking for that kind of price actions on these kinds of projects. Are people getting hyped and buying? But you do have to be careful at the same vein because it does die down pretty quickly, especially at this chop part of the market. It really is difficult when you're seeing a choppy market for something to reignite the space. But there are times when that happens. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, we had Fanta Bears at New Year's Eve. Those came out hugely successful, and then it reignited the ETH bull run just like that. So any one of these projects that are being shared, it could be enough to reignite ordinals and keep them running higher. But I would say from a probability and expected value perspective, if any of these projects off mint double or triple up, that's probably where I'd be taking profit. So all that's to say, put all of these on bookmarks. What Big Floppa just shared, they all look like quality projects. If you get in early, if you make a little bit of profit, I wouldn't get greedy with it. I think it's going to be easy to round trip some of these projects that have good art. It's just not really the environment right now for these projects to rocket, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. But again, like this is definitely like lower risk when you mint and you sweep off secondary and initially, because maybe you're getting in that $50 to $100 range, and then maybe you get out in the $200 to $300 range, and some maybe it runs more than that. So like Frux, right? 'Cause I think Frux minted at what, about $80 if I'm not mistaken, something like that. And look what that did. Even now, with it being really down, it's still at 0.0092. So it's still, a good $600 right now. So if you minted that, you're still up, like a 8x, right? So it's still pretty good.
Yeah, 100%. I think getting in early is the key. I would definitely just look for some price action. A lot of people sweeping. But once it comes in, I'd probably step in, get a couple. If it's cheap enough, dollar cost average down if you like them. I really like these Aeons, honestly. They have really cool art to them. So I think I'll be trying to get some of those. And I think that a 3.3K supply, the numbers are right there. So I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I don't think I have any other mints sort of on my horizon. That was probably a good little set of ones we went through right there. Anything else you're looking at, Ross? Like whether it's BRC. Oh, by the way, if you were in Maryland staking, there is another claim, the third claim. So make sure you do your claim. But is there any other thing you're looking at now? I was able to mint this week. It was BAMK on BRC20, like sort of like a derivative play of Bank of Nakamoto, and flip that for a nice little profit.
Oh, very nice, Waf. That's awesome. And appreciate the shout on Merlin. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pop over there. Um, how is Merlin price doing? I haven't really checked it since the first claim.
But I haven't checked it since the second claim, and today it was at 35 cents. I know it had gone down to about this level before, and then kind of popped back up to like 55, 60 cents, but now it's back down.
Nice. Well, make sure to claim the little bit that I got over there. Yeah, I haven't been doing a whole ton else. Honestly, I think that was a great call on your part to do the bank. I'm still waiting for bank BAMK to pull back a little bit to get back in, but I think that's a pretty solid play. I like that they're developing stable coins for Bitcoin, so that's pretty cool. Got a question here from Big Floppa. What are our thoughts on Pizza 5 Byte? I did not realize that I had to claim it, so missed out on it, Floppa. It seemed like it was a big cook for those holding. I think pizza is a good ticker symbol, but I don't know much beyond that. Wack, do you have any more information on pizza? I think you were able to claim that successfully, right?
Yeah, I claimed mine. I sold it. I think there's been like some shenanigans behind the scenes going on with pizza because, pizza was like a Unisat and a project, and it was also, I think, pretty much uh, backed by Binance. And then I don't know if you recall, runes were cooking, and then we hit. I want to say it might have been last Saturday, if not the Saturday before. Maybe it was last Saturday, where all of a sudden, going into the weekend, we had all this momentum, and then Sats were like 500 Sats per block and 600 Sats per block, and it was like OKX um, splitting UTXOs and just basically clogging the entire mempool by just wasting money, clogging the UTXOs at like that level, which made no sense to me. And I just think it kind of put stunted the runes momentum, and it was all I think it's all associated with potentially pizza being listed on Binance. So I think and the volume on pizza was like out of control. Like I never seen so much volume on something that didn't see that was hyped at all. So I don't know if that whole thing was coordinated or not. It just gave me like sus vibes, and I could be totally wrong on my take, but that's kind of like how I perceive pizza. So I sold mine. I'm not interested in it at all.
Appreciate it, Waf. Yeah, I like that you're candid with it and tell it how you see it. We got Big Floppa typing up a response. Love narrating this in real time. Um, but no, Waf, as we close in on the hour here, I really just want to emphasize that I think it's, to your point, okay to sit on your hands. I think there's a lot that's down in the market. I think there's a lot of opportunity. Just don't psych yourself out too much. Keep some liquidity on the side and just be glued in, I definitely think a big thing is like it's easy to say we're bearish and walk away. Just keep an eye on the market. You don't have to do as much as a bear. Focus on things in the meantime. Once again, I really want to plug this book, Trading in the Zone. It's just helped me tremendously, at least my headspace over the past couple of weeks. It's really just awesome stuff. There were things about trading that I've never even considered. So if you haven't read it, I would really just go out, get a copy. There's PDFs for free online. I would check it out. It really helps in times like this where there's just a lot of chop. But other than that, I would just find stuff that you believe in, find the narratives that you like, and when the time comes, just buy it and hold. Absolutely flip if there's a flip on the table, but I think right now is where I would just buy it and then be patient with it. I think it's a tough mentality if you're buying a runestone with the anticipation of it doubling overnight. That happens when the market's hot, but when things cool down, I think you have to adjust your expectations and know like you're not going to have a 5 to 10x every single night. It's just not the same playing field.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, if this is a time to like take a break from the market, if you're gonna sit on your hands, it's a great opportunity. It's summertime. Why not? Um, don't sell everything, right? I think, you hear these stories about people who, they don't pay attention to their accounts, and the next thing you know, like a few months later, they take a look and they're up like a significant amounts of money. I think that's possible when it comes to runes. So I wouldn't just be selling off your runes for like cents on the dollar, like thinking you're getting out. I'd rather just sit on it and let it stew a bit and let it cook. Maybe you'll come back to a nice surprise. I would say for BRCs, that was probably one of the biggest mistakes I made, was like just selling off some BRCs as we entered like the bear market for BRCs, and then when things started heating up again, like those sales looked like really bad in hindsight. So I would just say don't just sell for pennies on the dollar. Just sit on it. I would say that's probably like my only advice I would give. Just to respond back to Big Flop on his pizza, I guess he's bullish on pizza. Do not sell everything. Just leave at least 101 account. Perhaps it's a multiplier. That's very true. Maybe I'll buy back a little bit. And also definitely think pizza will be on Binance way faster than Runes, because I think for Runes they got to really build out their infrastructure to support it. And right now, without the volume, making that a worthwhile cause, they're not going to do it. So I think you need to see like enormous amounts of volume on Runes before Binance even considers listing it. So yeah, so that to that point, I agree. I just kind of generally bearish Unisat in general and BRC20s. But you do have valid points there. But again, I would just say if you're down on stuff, you're down bad. I would not be selling for pennies on the dollar. If it's not going to make a difference to you, just hold it.
Love it, Waf. Really well said. We're at an hour here, so if there's nothing else, time to wrap it up. Big shout out to Big Floppa for this one. 3 of Bless Their Brother. Thank you for hooking it up with some Ordinals intel there. And thank you, as always, everybody, for topping off your Monday with a little BossDawgs action. We love monitoring these markets and just talking all things Ordinals with you guys. I hope you're crushing it with runes. And if not, just hang in there, take some time to digest the markets, go for a walk if need be, and we'll see you next week.
See ya. And again, big shout out to Big Floppa. You got a blessing coming from me your way too as well.
Thank you, everybody.